Hello, this is Jason P. Wilson Zero in X-Force, and this is my Marvel comic poll list for the week of November 9th, 2011, and today is the 11th. It is a Friday. And first up here for my Marvel books is the much anticipated new ongoing Spider-Man series, Avenging Spider-Man #1. Now, when I saw previews of this online, I was quite excited about this book coming out, and now that I've read it, I am 100% on board to this new series. This is definitely solid on my monthly saver. First of all, I absolutely love the artwork. The only two comic books that I picked up this week that were so absolutely beautiful that I just had to read them were both Monocyte and now Avenging Spider-Man. Now, of course, these books are apples and oranges. You can't really compare to artwork. They're very different. But what you can say about the artwork of both Monocyte and Avenging Spider-Man is there is no one that does a more beautiful comic, period. Both those books are illustrated like paintings, and they're a pleasure to look at and read. And Avenging Spider-Man is in that league, obviously being the other comic they absolutely loved to look at. And right away, first of all, for a Marvel book, it didn't have that many advertisements in it. I was impressed with the minimal advertisements in this book, because like some of the other books that are beautiful, like Swamp Thing and Batwoman, just to name two other beautiful books, advertisements get in the way. But not so much in this book. Obviously, Monocyte had like no advertisements in the middle. Images and IDW are both really good about that. But Marvel and DC, they just throw them in everywhere. So I was really impressed with them not messing up the beautiful artwork with too many advertisements. That aside, the writing also was really fun. Like, Spider-Man is a funny character, and I love it when people write Spider-Man fun and humorous. And this is definitely a very beautifully illustrated and humorously written adventure comic. A lot of action, a lot of splash pages, done really well. The humor is sprinkled throughout the book and done very well. The other book that did humor this well this month was Wolverine and the X-Men. That and this book are on the same level when it comes to just fun humor and written well. Definitely a great Spider-Man book. And we have Amazing Spider-Man, but other than that, there's not a lot of great Peter Parker stuff out there. You have Ultimate Spider-Man, which of course is not Peter Parker. You have Spider-Man, which is really a kid comic. So the only other thing out there that I like reading was Amazing Spider-Man. And after Spider-Man Island, I was kind of dropping that book, maybe keeping my eye on it and picking up singles as they come. But I was really wanting to have a permanent Spider-Man comic in my collection for my monthly polls, and this one seemed to fit the bill, but a lot of times we're disappointed with the end result, but not in this case. I love Avenging Spider-Man. It is fun, and sometimes I just like my comic books to be beautiful and fun and just well written. A great comic. Now, this isn't super deep like a lot of the other great comics that came out this month, but it's not supposed to be. It's beautifully illustrated, it's fun to read, and it's just a great pleasure. So I definitely recommend this to all Spider-Man fans. And another cool thing is the twist of this is we're getting kind of our big-time Spider-Man all the time now. He's going to be teaming up with different superheroes. I don't believe he's ever going to be really on his own. And that I really like, because when it's done well, I love Spider-Man with other superheroes. They play off each other beautifully in this comic. So definitely a great comic book, and I'm excited to add it to my collection. Next up here from my Marvels is Uncanny X-Force #17. And this is, of course, Dark Angel Saga Chapter 7. This has been phenomenal from the beginning. What more can I say about this? Great artwork, fantastic storytelling, some great moments in this comic. You have some really cool action moments. You know, they don't hold back with Uncanny X-Force, and I have to say, just now are the X-books starting to get to this level. You have Wolverine the X-Men, which is great. You have Uncanny X-Men, which is pretty darn good. But for a long time, X-books were kind of just touch and go. But Uncanny X-Force has been red hot from the very beginning, and there's no exception here. This is probably one of the better chapters in a fantastic story. Great comic, and it's a must-read. Next up here from my Marvel is a one-shot that I picked up, and I've mentioned this before. I love one-shots that have a collection of short stories done by different artists and different writers, and that's exactly what this is. You have really well done artwork, no matter who's doing the artwork in which story. You have good writing as well. Every single one of these stories in this issue. I really didn't read any of these that I didn't think was a good story. So I am very happy with this. A lot of times when you pick up a one-shot, it's a hit or miss. But I'm pretty cautious late when I pick these up. I heard about this. I heard about the short stories, and I love that, so I went ahead and picked it up. If you like Ultimate Spider-Man 150, if you like Unexpected, then you definitely are going to like a Marvel Point 1. Also, this is important if any of these stories that are in here, if you know about them and you're interested in the future comics, this is definitely important to pick up because it's called Point 1 for a reason, and that is this is the beginning of future story arcs. I myself just wanted to get the short story collection. I loved having Scarlet Spider in here. I haven't read Scarlet Spider in a long time. He's written and illustrated really well in here. Plus, there's other heroes I don't usually read. I get Hawkeye once in a while. It was fun to read him. I get Doctor Strange once in a while. It was really fun to read him. There are also other superheroes in here that I just don't usually read comics for, so it was fun reading some short stories with them in it. Definitely a, I think, good one shot to pick up. And next up here is the phenomenon, which is Ultimate Comics All New Spider-Man number 4. If there was ever going to be another Spider-Man that wasn't Peter Parker that I wasn't going to like this much, I would probably not believe you. But now that it's happened, I am really enjoying this. In fact, right now we're having a crossover, sort of, with the death of Spider-Man. So you're finding out where our new hero was and how he was affected by the events of Death of Spider-Man. These are probably my favorite issues involving this storyline. You really get to see why he decided to do what he's doing now. Without spoiling too much, I'm going to try and talk about this a little bit. I really think it's awesome that basically Peter Parker has become this new Spider-Man's Uncle Ben. So everything that Uncle Ben was to Peter Parker in a way has now become that to this new Spider-Man. I thought that was a really cool way to give a driving force behind this new character. You know, as much as there are similarities of this character to Peter Parker, at the same time he's very much his own person and very different than Peter Parker in so many ways. Like, he's much more aggressive and he's got a lot more issues with some of his insecurities and stuff. But you know, this is a really well written comic book, and it's been greatly illustrated from the very beginning. So for those of you who maybe didn't want to read this because it's not Peter Parker, and I can understand that, I almost didn't continue or pick it up because of that, because I love my Peter Parker. But this is just well-written comic book here. It's extremely well-written. In fact, the artwork is good as well. It's perfect with the tone of the story. If you're not reading this, it's not as much of a miss as Uncanny X-Force, but pretty close. Very good ongoing series. And if there is one Ultimate comic that I'm going to keep on reading, it would be this one. And next up, and finally here for my Marvel, is Genesis limited series Magneto Not a Hero. Now, I was trying to pull back on a lot of these Regenesis. In fact, there are a few other issues of the X-Men Regenesis that I had. I think I had X-Men 20, and I had the new Mutants one. And I kind of threw them back into my box, maybe to pick up next week, maybe to put back on the rack. Not sure yet. I don't want to read a bunch of garbage of this whole Regenesis. I'm really liking what I've read so far, so I only want to read the very best of X-Men right now. I don't want to ruin this, great feeling of reading good X-Men books by reading a crappy one. So I'm holding back on a couple, but I did pull the trigger for this one because Chris, the owner of the store I go to, he said, look, it's really good. I think you'll like it. Give it a try. It's also a limited run, so it's easier for me to commit to a limited run than to an ongoing. So I know this is going to end, so I can invest in it. Now that I've read the first issue, I'm glad I picked it up. Magneto has always been a character that I've liked, but I haven't read too many stories that really focus mainly on him as a centerpiece rather than a villain or a teammate. And as well as you have cool characters interacting with them. Obviously, Scott Summers, you have Steve Rogers, you have Tony Stark, just to name a few. And I really like these, individuals that have huge egos, clashing or being in the same room with each other, that their egos are just bouncing off each other. I thought that was fun to read. And after reading this issue, I'm definitely glad I picked it up, and I will be picking up this series. If you want to read a good X-Men tale that will have an end, that ties in to the better X books, then I would recommend you getting this. It's a very good read. And with that said, those are my Marvels for the week. Now, like I said, I held back on a few other books. I may pick them up and just review them next week, or I might just not pick them up at all. I'm not sure about that. But I did enjoy my Marvels this week, and I would love to hear from you guys which books you guys got, and which of these books that you are going to be holding on to in your monthly saver. And with that said, those are my Marvels, and thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.